Welcome back to Contemporary Black Voices, and I'm sitting here today with Kiki Heights, who is the president of the San Antonio LBGTQ Plus Chamber of Commerce. And also sitting with me today are Chris Dawkins and Mario Salas. The topic today is really issues impacting the black LBGTQ Plus community. So, Pose. Now, those of you who don't know anything about Pose, it was a 3 or 4 season series about the LBGTQ plus community in New York. And I watched it because it was really, a learning experience for me. And it was about the ballroom culture. Then it got into how these members selected their new families. So how did that show, was it successful on changing perceptions on that community?
Yeah, I think if you had never been involved in part of the community and you watched that show, because it tackled a lot of subjects, right? It tackled youth homelessness, someone getting kicked out of their house for being gay and having to live on the streets of New York. It talked about found family and how there's houses in the LGBTQ plus community. It talked about the HIV/AIDS pandemic, because that show took place in the 80s and the 90s when that was a heightened area of health disparity. And it talked about the ballroom culture, which is its own culture, and which for a lot of what we have in the LGBTQ community now, it started with Black people in the ballroom culture. And a lot of like the dancing and the music that's in there, it started with Black people. And it started with that type of culture. So I think for watching that show, you got a sense of a different voice. Instead of looking from the outside in and just like, oh, I read about it in the newspaper, I'm watching it on the news, and someone else is reporting it. This show was made by LGBTQ community and their people. It was written and directed by a gay person, and then all of the stars were either transgender or a part of the LGBTQ community. And so I think it got a sense of storytelling from their voice. And so for anyone watching it, it kind of offered a different perspective of what is really the important topics and what is really happening and how we got here. Because it covered history on how we got here, how the first, when there was, I remember in the show, it introduced the AZT drug, which was what was used at the time for AIDS. And so it talked about that and how not everybody could get the drug. And people were dying because if you couldn't get the drug and get it approved, people were literally dying on the streets of AIDS. And the majority of those people were Black. And it talked about that in the show. And I think that was a statistic that a lot of people don't know about. I mean, and even to this day, there's a preventative HIV/AIDS drug called PrEP. And even currently, 46% of Black LGBTQ community are getting AIDS, but only 12% of them are on PrEP. And that is a very disparaging number. And I have to think about why. Why do they not have access to PrEP? Healthcare won't approve it. Not enough doctors know about PrEP or are able to do the paperwork to prescribe it. There's still a lot of health disparities.
What is PrEP used for?
PrEP is a preventative drug that's used to prevent HIV.
Okay.
And so, which is a virus that causes AIDS. So it's a preventative drug that you can take to help reduce the spread so it doesn't, spread on. So a lot of people to this day are still not prescribed that drug. And it just goes back to remind me that we still haven't cleared up any of the health disparities that are going on with Black people.
Let me ask you a question. When you were talking about this, Pose, is that the name of the show? When you were talking about Pose and you said the ballroom dancing or whatever, and you said that was started by Blacks, is there any backlash within the
LGBTQ.
Right, all that.
Plus.
Yeah, plus. Is there any backlash between that when people talk about the origination of maybe some of the stuff that started with blacks, and especially from that show? Do you find the Latinos, do you find the whites, do you find others that either disregard that or don't want to acknowledge it?
I think the disregarding happens.
Okay.
Or I forget that that's how it started. You know, I forget that, you know, in the 90s there was this documentary called Paris is Burning. And it talked about, you know, the black ballroom scene in Paris and how that was really how it all started. And I think there's not enough education around it or disregard for it, and people just go out and they see this happening. But the acknowledgement of, oh, this is how it started, let me pay tribute to that, that's not there.
See, what a lot of people, when they think about Madonna, the song Pose,
Vogue.
She went to a ballroom and she saw all of this dancing. And then she probably hired some of the dancers to do the choreography for her video. And so you think about the song Vogue, you would think that a white person started this. No, she actually went to a ballroom, saw this, was impressed, hired some of the dancers, and that's where the song Vogue came from.
Right.
And so
Right.
you
We
think
we were voguing before Vogue. Before Vogue came out, we were on the ballroom floor voguing before that.
Let me ask this question, because I hear this stuff from people who don't know what they're talking about. What is it? What do you call it when someone says they can train you or educate you not to no longer be gay? What do you call that? With voodoo?
Oh, the camps,
There's a name for it.
yeah, there's
Transition camp. Or,
no, there's different camps that people try to have, and it's a lot of religious-based camps that basically say that they can train the gay away.
yeah.
And I don't believe in those
No,
at all.
I don't either on that, but there are people that do.
There are.
Because they're trying to say that gayness is only a learned behavior and not necessarily associated with DNA. It is associated with DNA. In medicine, all kinds of ways it's associated. So, but I noticed that some people still bring that up.
That's
They,
part of
where
the
they get
white
voodoo and
supremacy.
fake Christians to try and do, I call them fake Christians to try and drive the devil out of you or whatever you call it.
Well, going on with that same question, when did you discover that you were different?
For me personally, I discovered that I was different, but pretty much in high school. Like, I realized in high school that I had attraction to both genders, and I was very aware of that, but I didn't know what to do with it. I mean, I lived in a very small town, a very racist small town, and a very oppressed small town, and I couldn't necessarily come out and just be who I am. So I stayed hidden from that aspect for a very long time, until college, in my later years in college, where I was like, you know what, I'm tired of doing this. I'm tired of hiding it out. I'm gonna be who I wanna be, and people are just gonna have to deal with it or just let me be. So yeah, that for me was a struggle because I lived years of knowing and not knowing what to do with it.
Well, we want to thank you for being on the show. We also want to thank our listeners for listening in. Please put your comments, please subscribe, share the video with others. And with that being said, this is Contemporary Black Voices, where we're telling our stories our way.